to, but Hollywood picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Kiefer Sutherland is supposed to star in it. I don't know what stage it's at now. She told me this. This is before the COVID pandemic. But yeah, it was picked up by Hollywood. She was telling me.
I did send the vampire. You could only send the first book, but I said like it was a whole series, and so they told me I could do a synopsis, and it was some Hollywood thing. And then they said that they had too many vampires, and then I'm sitting there and I was kind of ticked off because I see all this stuff that they're redoing.
Yeah.
You know, and this is so different, you know, from a lot of the vampire that is out there. It's not your regular, you know, as I usually say, blood, guts, and gore. It's very much a psychological love story, suspense, you know, family saga dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can, what was it we said about the temptress? It's a page turner. Get ready for some late night reading. You won't be able to put it down. This book has it all: deceit, murder, sex, love, hate, manipulation, terror, and mystery. It is a thrilling ride that is addictive and will leave you searching for your next fix. Tracy Buckles. You know, but like I've got, you know, tons and tons of testimonials, you know, from this series. Like I said, you know, when I finished the 3, people wanted more, and they still want more. So it has a good storyline. Yeah. Okay. So it's not just coming from me. It's, you know, coming from a reader.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So. Yeah.
Do you ever go to any of the writers' conventions, like at Astra in Toronto, or like they have a dealer's room, and a lot of publishing houses and authors are in there, indie authors, self-published authors, ones who have gone through the publishing industry, selling their books. They have them come and they speak. They hold workshops and things. I mean, it'd be really interesting for people to be able to come in and you know, you're moving to Toronto, you're getting a lot bigger. It's usually a whole weekend.
I only went, I went once, a number of years ago, to the Toronto Book Fair. And I haven't been back since. I'm actually a very shy person.
Okay.
I went to, I remember the one time my husband drove me down to Toronto, and it was to one of the children's lit meetings. And he actually got up and walked out because when they said, "Is there anybody new here?" and I wouldn't put my hand up. And so he got up and walked out and said, "Well, when you're finished here, you know, I'll be waiting in the car."
Yeah.
And the next day I handed him a poem called Invisible Me. And it was just about, you know, that I was there. You know, the lady I talked to on the phone was great because I was talking on the phone to her, but now I'm in this room with all these other people who are...
Well, they do panels, so you wouldn't be there on your own. Like, there'd be a bunch of people who are doing the same kind of writing that you're doing, and then you each talk, and then, so you wouldn't be up in front of us like you are on your own. You'd have somebody else up there. And Back of Phoenix Books is one of the oldest sci-fi fantasy bookshops still standing in Toronto, and they like to help authors too, and they'll have different days where they'll have an author come in and do book signings. And
okay. If I'm sorry, I forget
Natalie.
Natalie and Martin, you can put your names and your emails down there for me in
Sure.
my little book. Then I can reach out to you. And I know those are things I should do, and I should get back and I should do more of.
It sounds like you've got such a wonderful repertoire here that it would be so nice to be able to get it out even further for you. But a lot of the conventions are going online now too, so a lot of people are doing the everything just in front of their computer.
Yeah.
You don't even see who's watching you. You're just, and you're taking questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions, and then I'll explain the reason why for the questions. Okay. I've known you for how long now?
A long time.
A long time. I know your genre. is mainly in the mystery, like that genre that you've got displayed there. Okay, one question. Have you ever, with your sense of humor that I know you have you ever thought of writing comedy? Like a comic situation?
The only comic situations I have, I think, would be the Toby, you know,
Okay.
his comedic. There are some comedy short stories that have quite a bit of comedy in them.
Okay.
To write a novel with comedy, no, I haven't ever considered that.
Okay, second question. These are all your work.
Yes.
Have you ever considered collaborating with another author?
I
Like
would.
a joint.
I would if it was something that we could connect with, okay?
Okay.
I do work with another author right now, we haven't written anything together, but she'll come with ideas for me, like with her books, well, you know her, it's Regina.
Okay.
And I will just automatically start giving her ideas for her story. But I'm just doing it to give her the ideas, I don't wanna write it.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean to say that I never would, okay?
The reason I asked was because back when I was very first asked to illustrate for a gentleman named Alan Slater, sorry. And he was in the hospital, I met him. It was a Canada Day down at Mohawk Park. I had taken my kids down and rented to another friend who was with a group who Alan was with. Anyways, fast forward a couple of weeks later, I got a call out of the blue. It was Alan Slater. He had multiple sclerosis, MS. No, cerebral palsy, sorry. And he had been spending the year up in Brantford General Hospital because it was progressing. But he really wanted to get this little story out. It was a conversation with his daughter, Anya. And so, okay, great, my first project, yeah, I was excited. Because he was in the hospital, I did all the computer work, the artwork, and I was looking for publishers online. I came across a site called writing.com. Beginner to well-published. There was an academy in there. It all worked on a gift point system. Everybody critiqued everybody's work. It was awesome. I thought, okay, yeah, check it out. And they had a classified section. They had everything in this site. I started writing. Did some short stories, children's stories, articles, whatever, won a couple online contests with them. But in the academy, I met two other women in the academy in the website, Vicky and Flip. We became really good friends, and we each had our own individual personality. Vicky was a quiet one. Flip, she had an amazing sense of humor. You could read one of her pieces and you were in tears reading it because of the way she wrote it. And then I was just me. Anyways, we came up with the idea. They were both in the States. Flip was in Tennessee and Vicky, I don't know, Ohio or something. So anyways, we're starting to write a novel about three writers, three authors, in separate states. We were all going to meet up at a certain airport and head for this writers' convention. So it was kind of like basing it on real characters, but it was going to be road trip, and then of course different funny things were going to happen along the way. One of them was there was a highway patrolman. One of our suitcases flew off the top of the car that we rented. Well, of course, personal belongings went all over the highway. And here's this really hot motorcycle cop. Anyways, the girls kept meeting up with them. So that's why some of the last thing that you were talking about, okay, was reminding me of that story, which is why I asked if comedy and if you would ever consider collaborating.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far I would get into it because I have so many, one of the reasons that I stopped doing a lot of the editing in Cavern of Dreams was because of my writing style, and when I was editing other people's work, the editor that I had hired, she said, that's not the way they would say it. You know, you're putting your voice into it too much. You know, so it would have to be somebody that we were kind of on the same wavelength of style of writing and really wanting it to be very well polished. And I would never ever work with somebody that wouldn't agree to work with an editor, a final editor, that would book edit it for us at the end, because they say only a fool edits themselves completely. So I edit myself over and over again. I use the Grammarly program as well while I'm going through and I'm writing, and then I, edit again, but then I send it off to my editor at the end to give it a polish. And I have so many books and stories sitting on my shelf that are crying out to be finished. I'm not sure how much time I have left. No, that I would be able to do advice. Like I said, Regina has come to me with more than one novel for advice on how to get past a certain point, and I'll read it and I'll say, well, this is what you need to do. These are the connections here. You need more here, you need more there. But I've given her ideas as well. Like, I've said to her, you've got all these girls, like you need a teen novel for boys. Okay, so she has taken and run with that. Now she will be running with it eventually. I don't want to write it for her. I'm kind of in the background to collaborate and ghost, in the background. She came with me with some different children's stories, and I just it just goes off me like that, but I don't want to write them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Fred and I used to do that sometimes. We had, I think there was 2 stories that we ran through our heads. Fred Thursfield, right?
Actually, I helped him out with one of his stories.
Yeah. But there was, this one day we were driving through Kitchener and we saw the Children's Museum, and Fred and I just went off, the Children's Museum, and it was become a horror story because these people were, and Fred and I were going back and forth, and I looked at him and I said, you go write it, Fred. We saw a lady drawing chalk figures on the sidewalks downtown the one time. And Fred and I collaborated, and we started talking about that, and I said, you write it, Fred. There's only so much that I can write. Yeah. So for a big collaboration, I think the biggest, and I guess I should say that not everything I've done is fiction. I didn't bring it. I did interview a woman, and I published her biography. And I basically wrote it for her based on interviews with her, 20th Century Portia. And she was the first female lawyer in Lindsay, Ontario. And the first article I did on her was for the newspaper. And then she had asked me if the Law Society was asking women of that generation to do their bios. And she said, would you help me? And I said, well, when you're ready, let me know. So I went in with my tape recorder and I interviewed her. And then she had all kinds of letters and stuff like that, so we used them in the book as well to tell the story. And I told her story. So that's the only thing that I've done that's real, because my head's always been, to tell a tale.
Yeah, well, that's like you were all those voices in your head.
Yes.
Right, voices.
Writing stories, writing poems, especially the poems, is very similar to music. Mm-hmm. Because that's what music is, that's what the lyrics are. Mm-hmm. I've got several original songs that have been sitting in my songbook for a while. And yeah, poems, songs or poems
Yeah.
put to music.
Yeah, I've written some songs. There's some songs that, some of my poets from, was it my mother's hand that actually, I was sitting outside of the bank the one day, and I sang a song basically of my mother's passing, and this was years ago. And but walking in the meadow, and I even held my mother's hand, and I sang it right there, you know, and I tried to get people to write the music out for me. I have a couple of other novels that are very dear to my heart. Hope's Merry-Go-Round, I was talking to Aidan about that earlier, about, it's a fiction novel, but it deals with abuse, and it deals with an abuse that's not talked about a lot, and that's sibling abuse. And there's another underlying story in it as well. And for reasons personal to myself, I didn't want to publish it until my parents were gone. They had nothing to do with the abuse, but I didn't want them to be asking a lot of questions. And so that's a book that I really want to finish. I can actually finish it now and publish it. And there is another book. There's a few there. But there's another one that I wanted to write as well, is My Mother's Hand. And last Easter, I believe it was, or maybe it was the one Mother's Day, my dad had brought her back to the house, and I was holding hands with her, and I took a picture of our hands holding, and that'll be the book cover. Oh, you've got to hear Backseat Betty. This was a writing exercise actually from the Writers' Circle. We had a fella come down from London, and we were supposed to, apparently, I arrived late, okay, so I didn't get the full instructions, so that's my excuse, okay. We were supposed to take one Miles Davis song and write a poem for it. Well, I saw all these titles there, and I thought, oh geez, I'm going to run with this one. So I called it Backseat Betty. So this is my tribute to Miles Davis songs. They called her Backseat Betty back in high school, because she was always sitting, sometimes laying in the back seat of the classroom, the church pews, the cars. And the boys used to ask Backseat Betty to bring it on home. And she would, yeah. Backseat Betty always scored home runs with the boys. But that was then. Now Backseat Betty dresses in black satin, leaving nothing to anyone's imagination. And she sings down at the Basin Streets Blues Club. And the boys from high school can't believe that the woman with the blue haze aura is their Backseat Betty. For when she opens her mouth and sings Bye-Bye Blackbird, she looks directly at them, and at the end of the song she smiles and says, "Bring it on home, boys. I'll mix you all a bitch's brew at midnight. Come to my house for the backyard ritual, and I'll blow you away with my blues by 5. And if you all live, all the things you are will be revealed to you. Backseat Betty ain't sitting in your back seats no more." And Betty began to sing again, Bye-Bye Blackbirds, her body swaying in the black satin dress. And a gal in calico danced along in the blue room, smiling as she approached Betty. And Betty's voice broke into a new song, Bess, you is my woman. And the boys from high school dissipated into the blue haze.
Okay, well with that, I want to thank you, Mary Cushnie Mansour,
Thank
for
you.
being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
inviting me.
if anybody would like to purchase her books, they are available for sale, and she will sign them and sign her name and give you a nice greeting.
Okay,
So yeah, this is the signing opportunity.
thank you very much.
Thank you for putting up with me for an hour.
Yeah, no problem. It's all good.